Very excited to talk to you today. This film was so much fun. A lot of times I get links from movies, and you're like, okay, so there's people from here, and they have two of my favorite people from Titans, and they have this, and then you're just hoping that they're gonna make a good movie. That's what you're hoping for. You're hoping it wasn't like, okay, we have 2 days up in my cabin. I've got like a
Right.
camcorder and one light, and we're gonna just throw it out. But this thing just blew me away. I was having so much fun with it. I have to ask, Alan, first, like, what was the thought process and the feel of this film? Like, how playful was your plan to make this film from the beginning? Because it is very playful.
Oh, thanks, man. I think from the beginning it evolved a lot. In the beginning, it was very serious, but I just think it's a little too heady, and not a lot of people are into the computers and the deep web and Cicada 3301 internet scavenger hunts and that kind of thing. So the closer we got to production, the more it was evolving into this really fun adventure that I think everybody can enjoy. So Joshua Malcolm, the guy that I co-wrote it with, he really helped infuse it with a lot of that. So I give him a lot of credit. But I don't think you can make a film like this and that and it take itself too seriously and it do well. I think a lot of people will sort of yawn. We all use computers. We're all online with a screen in front of our face every day. So I think what people are really looking for is an adventure that they can have fun and escape to, and that's what we try to do.
So, talking about Gwen, how would you best describe her? Because she's not like she's a nerd, but not a total nerd. And she has like flavorings of goth, but not really a goth either. So, like, where do you put her in the category when you first read her and who she was gonna be?
She doesn't I don't know, she's just her. Like, she doesn't really care if you have an she's I feel like she'd be like, "If you wanna call me goth, fine. If you don't, fine." Like, I'm just, like, dressing how I wanna dress, doing what I wanna do for a living, and, like, everyone else is just, like, kind of an audience member. Um, I think she's just strong, and she's really smart. Nerds have many different personas, and they come in many different kind of character traits. So I think ultimately she's just a really strong, by the books too, like not just like a energetically a strong persona, but like she's really articulate. She is smart, on par with as smart as Connor Black is, if not maybe in a few ways that he's not. She's quick-witted, and I think she's just ultimately at the core of it, like a really cool chick who is just doing her own thing. And yeah, I don't know if like I mean, yeah, she has like maybe inklings of being this like punk girl, so to speak, but I think at the core of it, it's really just like her brain that I kind of focused on and looked at that I consider as the strength of her.
So, Alan, I have to ask, putting this, how did this cast come together? Because I really did enjoy everyone's different piece to this. I mean, everyone from your character who has some very imaginative ways of showing his character in different ways. I don't even know how to explain how you get explained sometimes in past historical moments. But also, Ron Funch's character as well, who really leans into some of the fun nature of who he is too. So, how did this cast kind of become for Dark Web Cicada?
Right. Well, Mary Verneau is the U.S. casting director, and she's a legend in our field. So she was able to sort of invite in the Jack Kesling and Ron Funches, and I'd met Connor on Titans, obviously, and kind of fell in love, and just feel like she just was the character. So so I got lucky there, but I was introduced to Jack, and he read the script, and it seemed to resonate, and I just felt like he was exactly who I had in mind, right? When I picture Connor Black, he's that guy, gritty from the wrong side of the tracks, a little rough around the edges. He's just the guy. So I lucked out there, and then Ron Funches, who comes from stand up. I always like working with stand-up comics. I think there's actually a lot of depth and heart there, that a lot of times they're just sort of not given the opportunity to explore on camera. And when I talked to him, I said, that's actually that his realness, his rawness, his authenticity, his kindness, his genuine nature. It's just, you get it when you have a conversation with him. I said, you're enough. Like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to add anything to this character. I said, I just want you. You're great. And I think he enjoyed being able to be himself a little bit, but he's also so quick. He brought to life some of these scenes. I think he made them a lot better, as did everybody. But, so there's a little bit of luck involved with all the casting, but the performances are phenomenal, across the board. So I think I just got very lucky.
Very cool. Well, one thing I do want to ask each of you is this: in this world, there's many things we don't know. So, if you were to lean one way more or the other, would you say there is a underground, digital society that is kind of like trying to change the world? Or maybe is there ghosts more in the world? Like, which way would you lean more to be like, I've seen a ghost, things have moved? Or do you like, well, I believe there's someone out there who has my ATM card and is thinking about buying a Porsche, so.
Oh, both.
You
Both
want both?
exist.
You just want the
Oh,
open
wait,
to
are you
everything?
saying what do I think, or
Yeah.
what
Do you lean towards one? Are you an open person who believes that all of it can be real? Let's let it happen.
All of it's a very broad thing, but what you just listed, I think both. I've lived in some things I'm convinced were haunted. So yeah, I'd say both are. And I think that there's just so many ways that your stuff can be tracked now. You swipe your credit card. Like, I think this idea that something is privately yours is like something we have to start, you have to understand might not be the case at some point. So I think that it's fair enough that, like, hacking is, that stuff is pretty easy for a lot of people to do. So I'd say both are out there. Maybe ghost hackers. Maybe there's a ghost that's like,
That's the prequel. When we do the prequel, that's going to be ghost hackers.
yeah,
Ghost
just
hackers.
like spirit Gwen.
Right.
Do you feel that way too,
Spirit
Alan? Are you on board with ghosts and a hacker society too?
I've always believed in magic. Yeah, I do believe that we live in a universe where magic and miracles are possible. I think often we see them, every day, and just sort of, I think, take for granted a lot of the magic that we see. But I do also think that there are, I think there's very dark forces at work, creating a narrative, a language, through sort of the gamization of politics or information online. That's, like QAnon, for example. I mean, this is something that it was an internet thing, essentially a character where it leads the user to, it's a type of psychological warfare. It leads the user to fill in the blanks. I'm going to put out a little bit of nondescript information, and you fill in the blank, and you become the detective that solves the problem and decides just how nefarious this thing that I'm talking about is. And it snowballs, and people like to feel like there's an explanation for the bad things that happen in the world. And it's all very similar to what the same kind of psychology that Cicada 301 uses. So it's very real, and that's happening, and we're seeing the after effects of a lot of that. Which is why talking about information security and more intellectual ideas about what kind of world order we should be pursuing as a people is important. And so we touch on those conversations throughout the film, but of course, again, I think you can't take yourself too seriously, and I think to make this more of a comedy is important, so that we can make those kinds of ideas palatable, but those themes are there.
Now, and that's one of the things I was kind of wondering too, to keep the the openness of it. You know, a lot of this film is kind of set in a flashback format. We're going back to things remembered, sometimes incorrectly, sometimes incorrectly on purpose. You know, is was there anything that was added to the shot schedule because of that format of remembering things in flashbacks? We're like, you know what, this is cool. We got a new scene to shoot. Like we have to keep moving forward. Was there anything like that in this, or was it all pretty much we've got it storyboarded? Let's just keep on this road.
We actually had a lot of scenes that we just didn't have time to keep in the movie that we shot. Unfortunately, you know, I mean, it's expensive to shoot a scene, so you don't ever want to shoot one that ends up on the cutting room floor. But there was actually quite a bit that we filmed that just didn't make it in the movie. Uh, but some of the funner scenes, like you know, near the end of the movie, Agent Carver and Agent Sullivan, these rather inept NSA agents that are on the hunt for Cicada 3301. They bust into a party undercover wearing almost nothing. And that scene was developed through a conversation where I was asking my crew to help me come up with ideas for the most humiliating way to enter the party. And everybody was throwing out like bombs. What about this? What about this? Happy to humiliate, you know. So some of that was developed, you know, as we were filming. Yeah.
And it was interesting too, the all the different characters and the parts you gave them, because our main character, he starts out as someone who is very capable and you know, very physical, but really there's a lot of stuff that ends up being more cerebral and also stumbling at the same time too. Was that always something you wanted to kind of have him to carry that through? Like he's the good guy, but he's also a good guy with his own faults.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. The kind of the knight errant kind of archetype. I mean, you know, he's there's a lot of myself in Connor Black. You know, I mean, not perfect. Um, you know, not the smartest in the world, and you know, there's a question about how intelligent you are if you don't use your superpowers, your gifts, or whatever they are, to fight, you know, the universe that we live in. You know, these are questions that I always wrestle with, and you know, build some of that into Connor. And I think the kind of inner conflict and inner turmoil, that's just that tension that always exists in him, is kind of something I struggle with. And I like that flawed character. I mean, it feels very human to me. I mean, he feels very relatable and real. He's not invincible, you know. He's human, and you know, I just want to tell stories that we can relate to in that sense, you know. And so I think he did a great job of bringing that kind of honesty to life. And then it also leaves room for fun because nobody's perfect.
And you know, when it comes to Gwen, she is definitely a mystery. I think pretty much the whole way through. I mean, there's so many different
Mhm.
levels. That's kind of fun. The fact that even at the end, I don't want to give anything away, but we still have a lot of questions. I mean, there's a lot of questions to be had too. Is it fun to have that character? Like, I still question her, even her entrance into the story. Like, I'm still questioning how those things occurred and these things happened too. So, was it fun having a character who is essentially a mystery by her own means?
Yeah, I mean, I think also when you're an actor and you're playing a character, if the character still remains a mystery even to you, that's so fun because by the end of it, I kind of, again, without giving anything away, but by the end of the reading the script, even playing out these scenes, I kind of had this like idea of who she might be that we didn't get to see. And so I think that was a big aspect of what made playing her so enjoyable because as actors we're kind of supposed to understand as much as we can about a character, the things you see on paper and that you don't see, and to play someone who's a mystery even to myself was a really fun and new thing for me to play.
Very cool.
I think that's
Well,
kind of her goal, like that you just don't know.
really, and I think so too. You just don't know, and I want to ask other questions, but I don't want to give things away, so I'm going to kind of push that aside a little bit too. But I want to say, Alan, you know, the creation of these characters is so good. And it also gives me so much hope too for Jack Reacher, which you're going to bring too, because I am a huge, huge fan of the stories and the books too. So, one is, how much fun are you having, and number two is how excited should we be for Jack Reacher as well?
Oh, thanks, man. I'm a fan. I'm right there with you, man. I'm a huge fan of the books. I kind of have to pinch myself because I love the character. I just love it. It's very exciting. We're gearing up to start filming, and all the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. Great director, great cast. It's all very exciting. It's very well done. The guys that are putting this together, Don Granger, Nick Santora, everybody from Skydance and Amazon. Everybody is really brilliant at what they do and the best in their field. So it's exciting to be a part of it, and it seems like everybody's doing a really good job of honoring the books, and being a fan of it myself, I'm excited to see it come to life.
Very cool. Well, I was in the CinemaCon audience when Tom Cruise announced he was going to be Jack Reacher, and if you listen closely, you can hear a no in the off the side.
No,
Unfortunately, I love him.
no,
I love him. I'm sorry, but at the same time,
no.
I'm very excited to see you in it because you have a picture. So I'm going to go with that and leave it at that alone. But I thank you both for talking with me today. I really want people to watch this film because it's a lot of fun, and I hope that everyone in both your lives is happy and healthy.
You too,
Thanks,
man.
man.
Thanks so
Appreciate that.
much.
It's nice
Big up.
talking to you.